Leviticus 19-21 shows what holiness looks like after worship and cleansing. The Lord doesn't only want Israel to have correct rituals at the tabernacle. He wants a holy way of living in the camp. These chapters are about covenant behavior, how people treat parents, neighbors, the poor, workers, strangers, and sacred responsibilities. Holiness becomes visible in relationships, integrity, and compassion. Leviticus 19 is often called a holiness code because it gathers many commandments into one message. Be holy because God is holy. It includes reverence for parents, Sabbath respect, honesty in business, kindness to the vulnerable, and the famous command to love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 20 explains consequences and warns Israel not to copy the corrupt practices of surrounding nations. The Lord is protecting Israel from becoming spiritually mixed and morally unstable. Holiness requires boundaries, and boundaries protect the community. Leviticus 21 focuses on priests and higher standards for those who serve in sacred roles. This is not favoritism, it's stewardship. When someone serves close to holy things, their life must be consistent, clean, and steady, because their choices affect the whole community. Together, these chapters teach: holiness is practical, holiness is compassionate, holiness requires boundaries, and holy service requires extra care. Leviticus 19 begins with the Lord's call, be holy. Then it immediately connects holiness to ordinary life. Holiness starts with honoring parents and respecting the Sabbath. That means home worship matters. A holy community is built from holy homes, places of respect, order, and peace. Then the Lord warns against idols. This teaches that holiness requires loyalty. If hearts drift toward false gods, families become unstable. Idols today can be anything that takes a center: pride, money, entertainment, anger, or self. Leviticus 19 also teaches a beautiful principle of compassion, leaving corners of the field for the poor and the stranger. This means Israel's prosperity must include generosity. God's people are not allowed to squeeze everything for themselves. They must leave room to bless others. Holiness includes sharing. The heart lesson is clear. Holiness isn't only private devotion. It's how you treat people with less power. It's whether you notice the needy. It's whether your home has a Sabbath spirit. It's whether your loyalty belongs to God. A practical application: leave corners in your life. Leave time to serve. Leave margin to help. Leave extra kindness for those who struggle. A holy life is not packed tight with selfishness. It has space for mercy. This section shows holiness in words and relationships. God forbids stealing, lying, and cheating. He commands fairness, especially with workers and the vulnerable. He also warns against gossip, hatred, and revenge. Then he gives a command that changes everything: love your neighbor as yourself. Holiness here looks like integrity. It's truth in business. It's honest speech. It's paying people fairly. It's refusing to use power to harm. God is teaching that spiritual people must also be trustworthy people. The chapter also deals with how we handle conflict. God says don't store hatred in your heart. Don't take revenge. Instead, correct problems honestly and lovingly. That means if something is wrong, you don't become cruel or passive-aggressive. You deal with it in a clean way. Love your neighbor is not a soft slogan. In this chapter, it means don't lie about them, don't steal from them, don't oppress them, don't hold grudges, don't seek revenge. Do what you'd want done for you. A modern question: does my faith show up in how I speak and how I treat people when I'm upset? Loving your neighbor means your anger is controlled by covenant. It means you choose reconciliation over bitterness. Leviticus 19 continues with many instructions that may feel like small details, but they build a holy culture. The Lord teaches Israel to respect boundaries, avoid mixed worship practices, and live with fairness in trade. He commands honest weights and measures, no cheating customers. He commands respect for the elderly and kindness to strangers. The deeper message: holiness is consistency. It is not pretending at the tabernacle and then being selfish at the market. A holy person is the same person everywhere. The Lord also teaches empathy. Remember, you were strangers in Egypt. That means Israel must treat outsiders with kindness, not suspicion. God's covenant people remember what it felt like to be powerless, and they protect others from that pain. Modern application. Holiness shows up in small daily fairness, how you handle money, how you treat customers, how you speak to people who can't help you back, how you treat the elderly, and how you treat newcomers. It also shows up in avoiding mixing, trying to worship God while holding on to worldly practices that poison the heart. A strong question. Where do I cut corners when nobody would notice? God notices. Leviticus 19 calls covenant people to clean honesty, steady fairness, and consistent kindness. Leviticus 20 explains that some sins are so damaging that they threaten the whole community. The Lord warns Israel not to copy the corrupt practices of surrounding nations. This chapter is about guardrails, boundaries that keep families safe and keep covenant worship clean. When God gives consequences, the purpose is protection. A community without boundaries becomes unsafe. People get hurt. Children become vulnerable. Trust collapses. God is building a nation where His presence can remain, and that requires that certain behaviors are clearly rejected. Leviticus 20 also emphasizes loyalty to God. Turning to false worship or occult practices corrupts hearts and invites confusion. God wants Israel to seek Him, not counterfeit spiritual power. Holiness requires trust in the Lord's way, even when false alternatives look tempting. Modern application. Every healthy home has guardrails. You don't negotiate with everything. You set firm boundaries around what will destroy peace. Abuse, addiction, unfaithfulness, cruelty, deceit. Guardrails don't remove agency. They protect the environment so agency can thrive safely. A question. What boundary protects my home and my spirit most right now? And is it strong enough? Sometimes holiness means saying no, even when the world says yes. This section continues moral boundaries, especially around marriage faithfulness and family integrity. The core principle is protection. When moral boundaries break, trust collapses. Families fracture. Children suffer. The Lord teaches Israel that covenant life must include sexual restraint and loyalty because these are foundations for stable homes and safe community life. The chapter also shows that sin is not only private. Private sin spreads, pain outward. God is protecting the innocent and preserving a culture where families can thrive. Holiness is not shame. It is safety and peace built on trust. Modern application. The same principle holds. Faithfulness protects marriage. Clean habits protect the spirit. Wise media boundaries protect the heart. Guardrails protect the home. The Lord's standards are not meant to steal joy. They protect joy from being destroyed by betrayal and chaos. This chapter invites a quiet personal review. Do my choices strengthen trust or weaken it? Do my habits protect my marriage or tempt me toward compromise? Do my influences keep my heart clean or train my mind to be careless? Holiness is not an image. It is a life that safeguards love. Love grows best where there is loyalty, honesty, and self-control. Leviticus 20 ends by telling Israel to keep God's statutes and not live like the nations around them. This is about covenant identity. The Lord is not asking Israel to be strange for attention. He is asking them to be separate from corruption so they can stay close to Him. A holy people must be careful about imitation. If Israel copies the surrounding culture, they will lose their covenant strength. God's presence will feel distant. Homes will become unstable. Worship will become mixed and confused. So the Lord commands separation, not isolation, but distinctness. Modern application. This is one of the most practical messages in Leviticus. Your environment shapes you. Your influences shape you. If you constantly copy the world's values, you will slowly lose spiritual sensitivity. But if you choose to be distinct, clean speech, honest work, faithful marriage, Sabbath worship, kindness to the poor, you preserve peace in your heart. This chapter also warns against counterfeit spiritual power. God wants His people to seek Him directly, not through dark or deceptive substitutes. Holiness includes where you go for guidance. A question. Where am I being pulled to copy a culture that doesn't honor God? Choose one place to be distinct this week. Speech, media, honesty, forgiveness, or Sabbath devotion. Leviticus 21 begins priest standards. The message is stewardship. Priests serve close to holy space, so their lives must be especially careful. This is not about being better than others. It's about being reliable. A community needs servants whose choices are consistent with what they teach. The chapter emphasizes avoiding practices that would dishonor sacred service and keeping family life honorable. Priests represent the Lord's work to the people, so their personal integrity matters. When a servant's life is careless, the community's trust is harmed, and worship becomes weaker. Modern application. Anyone who serves near holy responsibilities, parents, teachers, leaders, should feel the principle. If you want your home to be spiritually safe, your private life must match your public faith. Children learn holiness more from what you live than from what you say. This chapter invites a personal check. Is my example helping others come closer to God, or making holiness feel confusing? Are my habits clean enough that the Spirit can be comfortable near me? Am I careful with what I watch, say, and do because others are watching and learning? High standards are a form of love. They protect sacred trust. They keep holy service from becoming hollow. This section discusses additional priest standards and physical wholeness for those serving in certain roles. The deeper principle is not that God rejects people with limitations. The principle is that sacred service is to be offered with honor, integrity, and careful respect for symbolism in worship. God uses visible symbols to teach invisible truths. Modern application. The Lord values every person and every capacity. People serve in many ways. But the general message about sacred service remains. Those who handle holy responsibilities should do so with reverence, preparation, and integrity. Worship should not become careless, sloppy, or self-focused. This chapter also teaches something about spiritual wholeness. Even if a person is physically limited, spiritual integrity is available to all. Wholeness in the heart means honesty, humility, clean habits, and devotion to God. A person with a whole heart can be a powerful servant, whether visible or unseen. A question: am I bringing my best integrity to what I consider sacred? That might be sacrament worship, temple covenants, family leadership, or teaching. Sacred service is strengthened by consistency. What you do privately matches what you say publicly. Leviticus 21 calls servants to treat holy things with honor and treat God's presence with respect. That builds trust, peace, and a spiritually safe community. Leviticus 19 to 21 shows holiness as a complete way of life. Leviticus 19. Holiness is love in action. Honor parents, keep Sabbath, be honest, refuse gossip and grudges, treat workers fairly, care for the poor, welcome strangers, respect the elderly, and love your neighbor as yourself. Holiness is not a label. It is visible kindness and integrity. Leviticus 20. Holiness requires guardrails. Some sins destroy trust and safety, so God warns clearly and sets consequences to protect the community. Holiness means saying no to corruption and refusing to copy the surrounding culture. Leviticus 21. Holiness is extra careful for sacred servants. People close to holy responsibilities must live consistently because their example shapes others and protects worship. A simple modern pattern. Choose one act of neighbor love this week. Strengthen one guardrail that protects your home, and honor one sacred practice with deeper reverence. The question to end with: if someone watched my week, would they see a holy life in my words, my honesty, my kindness, and my boundaries? Holiness isn't perfection. It's covenant loyalty, steady love, steady truth, and steady reverence.